these warriors an opportunity to recant and to disavow their Christianity. Instead, they decide to sell all their possessions and go into a cave. And in response, the emperor decides to seal this cave with the sleepers inside.
Several hundred years go by, and a shepherd chances upon this cave, and he breaks down the wall, and the 7 people inside the cave have been sleeping for hundreds of years, and it's now 300 years later, and they're still alive, these 7 sleepers.
These sleepers then go into Ephesus, and nothing looks the same. Something they noticed is that there are Christian crosses everywhere, because by now, Christianity has taken over.
The 7 sleepers of Ephesus, you think, okay, is it that there's a miracle here, or have they been in a place where the timeline, has shifted, and so what seems 300 years to them has been a much shorter amount of time?
While many scholars regard this story as fictional, millions of Christians and Muslims believe a true miracle took place, and that these 7 warriors were transported into the future. In fact, hundreds of graves have been found at the grotto dating back to the 5th century, along with inscriptions indicating that people were buried there because it was considered a location of great power. Today, it remains a popular pilgrimage site, serving as a testament to humankind's preoccupation with one of the most significant and least understood forces in the universe: time.
What is time? That's a great question. It's a fundamental question. We all normally live along the straight line of time, from the past, present, to the future. But the question is there a way around that? A way to travel through time?
Time is important to us. The passage of time is an item of grief that we all know is universal. We have a kind of longing to defeat time.
Why has time travel stuck around for so long in human consciousness? I think this idea that you can go into the ancient past or travel into the future is the ultimate trip.
The notion of breaking free from the seemingly inescapable bonds of time has existed in the human imagination for centuries. But modern concepts of time travel are largely credited to science fiction author H.G. Wells, who in his 1895 book, The Time Machine, speculated as to how time travel might be scientifically possible.
H.G. Wells began to say to himself, if we can move in space, why can't we move in time? And that's the beginning of his novel, The Time Machine. H.G. Wells said it takes 3 coordinates to locate an object in space. Time, therefore, is the 4th dimension. We need 4 coordinates to identify any event in our universe.
H.G. Wells talked about the idea that space and time were somehow linked together, and the protagonist of the book was able to go at will any time into the future or any time into the past to actually experience and see what was going on.
Could humankind one day be able to travel back in time, or even into the future? Incredibly, just a decade after the publication of The Time Machine, Albert Einstein proposed a similar vision of time travel.
H.G. Wells in 1895 mentioned the idea of time and space being connected. This is interesting because Albert Einstein came up with a theory of relativity, where he also proposed that time and space are connected.
Time used to be thought of in Newtonian classical physics as something absolute. It didn't change, it was the same for everybody everywhere. Einstein came along in 1905, published a paper on special relativity, and demonstrated that time's actually relative.
Now, in Einstein's theory, space and time relate to each other. That's why it's called space-time. Whatever you do to space also happens to time. A rotating black hole is twisting a space. Time is linked to space. So if I'm twisting space, I can twist time. Mathematically, this has been shown. I can travel from the future back into the past. We haven't been able to do it yet experimentally, but it's a real part of Einstein's general theory of relativity.
Is it possible that space-time can be manipulated to travel into the past? And if so, how close is modern science to achieving such an incredible feat? The University of Connecticut, 2021. Theoretical physicist and professor Dr. Ronald Mallett works closely with a team of researchers on a project to realize his lifelong dream, the creation of a time machine. By using a mechanism called a ring laser, Dr. Mallett believes that he can manipulate the fabric of space and time to create a door that can open to the past.
What I did was I solved Einstein's gravitational field equations, and I was able to show that a circulating beam of laser light will cause a twisting of space. There is a device, it's called a ring laser. All it is a device that causes light to move around in a loop. You can get it to do that in a number of different ways, bouncing off mirrors, for example. And I was able to show that a circulating beam of laser light will cause a twisting of space. What I was able to show further is that if this twisting of space was strong enough, it could lead to time being twisted into a loop. And these loops in time could allow for the possibility of time travel in the past. This is all anchored in Einstein's general theory of relativity.
While Dr. Mallett's time machine may be theoretically sound, one major hurdle stands in his way: harnessing massive amounts of energy.
The real constraint with a time machine at the moment is the energy involved, because you have to bend the dimension, that's time.
The energy at which you can create a gateway through space and time is called the Planck energy. Planck energy is a quadrillion times more powerful than our most powerful machine, the Large Hadron Collider. We're talking about the energy of a star, perhaps an alien civilization in outer space, thousands of years more advanced than us, may be able to access the Planck energy. That cannot be ruled out.
If extraterrestrial civilizations have the technology to traverse the vast distances of space, as ancient astronaut theorists suggest, might they have also mastered the ability to travel through time? Perhaps further clues can be found by examining incredible stories of time travel found in some of the earliest texts ever written. Houston, Texas, 2016. After a record-breaking 340 days aboard the International Space Station, astronaut Scott Kelly returns to the NASA Johnson Space Center. The mission was designed to help researchers understand the effects of long-term spaceflight on the human body. Scott's identical twin brother and former astronaut, Mark Kelly, remained on Earth to serve as the control subject. While Scott was in space, his immune system was more active, his vision deteriorated, and he lost more bone mass compared to Mark. But perhaps the most significant difference was that for Scott, time had slowed down.
When they measured the aging acceleration of Scott Kelly and Mark Kelly, the twins, it turns out that Scott was 0.5 milliseconds younger than Mark. And so what's going on here? So that actually fits with time dilation. It's a phenomenon that we have observed to be real, that the closer you go to the speed of light, the more time slows down for you.
According to Einstein's theory of special relativity, the faster you move, the slower time gets. So if you have a telescope and could look inside a rocket ship speeding near the speed of light, everyone inside that rocket would be frozen, moving at a different rate in time. Given that the space station orbits around the planet Earth at about 17,500 miles per hour, you can actually calculate how slow time must be on the space station. And so we can actually measure this effect in the laboratory.
Imagine in the future when we have rockets that can go close to the speed of light. They could find that days, maybe years had passed from people on board the rocket. But when they come back, they would find out that decades had passed here on the Earth. They could come back and find that they are younger than their children. Time travel to the future is real. We've seen the baby steps of it, but it has happened.
If space travel has revealed to humankind the possibilities that exist for manipulating time, is it possible that somewhere in the vast expanse of the universe, other intelligent beings have advanced to the point where they are able to move through time as easily as space? Ancient astronaut theorists believe evidence can be found in ancient texts that our ancestors may have already witnessed or even experienced the bending of time.
There's this wonderful book of stories, an epic in Hindu culture, the Mahabharata, written in the 3rd century before the Common Era, but this was writing down oral traditions that were much, much older than that. And one of the tales is when King Ravata goes up into the heavens and meets God, the great creator god Rama himself. King Ravata was actually taken into the heavens in a chariot to visit this gigantic palace that was in the celestial realm. And when King Ravata came back, much to his surprise, he did not recognize a single person that was in his neighborhood. In fact, it turns out that he had returned hundreds of years later. Now, how is such a thing even possible?
Here we have what is perhaps the first story of time dilation, where someone has gone up into space, in say a spaceship, and all this time has passed, which is exactly what Einstein had talked about in 1905, only this is a story from thousands of years ago.
Could King Ravata's experience be a historical account of a time dilation event that occurred thousands of years ago? For ancient astronaut theorists, this possibility is made stronger when considering the fact that similar stories were told in other parts of the world, like in Egypt, where ancient hieroglyphs describe a celestial craft called the solar barge of Ra.
There are many references in ancient Egypt about Ra's solar barge, which was this vehicle that they described that they saw cross the sky. This solar barge is also known as the ship of a million years.
According to an ancient document known as the Turin King List, which contains a record of all Egyptian rulers up until 1300 BC. The earliest pharaohs lived for hundreds or even thousands of years. These were the pharaohs who were said to have journeyed to the stars on the solar barge of Ra.
You look at some of these records from the Egyptians, and you think, well, okay, if there is this phenomenon of time dilation, that these pharaohs really are traveling on craft at very high speeds, then when they come back, they're still young, the Earth has aged tremendously, and so is that part of it? Is that how you have pharaohs that lived hundreds of years? You see this effect, what we now call time dilation, in various ancient cultures.
There is an artifact at the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, England, that is called the WB44 King's List of Ancient Sumeria. It lists the exact reigning periods of all the kings of ancient Sumeria. The total is 266,000 years, and there are crazy reigning periods that are recorded very specifically, and I think they knew perfectly well how to record time.
You have these figures in the Bible that live for hundreds of years. I think the oldest figure in the Bible is Methuselah, the grandfather of Noah, and he dies, the Bible tells us, at the age of 969.
According to the Hebrew Bible, Methuselah's father, Enoch, left the earth in a fiery chariot
subsequent lives would be that they are traveling through space, coming back, and therefore 400, 900 years can go by, and that's essentially their age on Earth.
These concepts should not be described by our ancestors because it should have exceeded their knowledge at the time. But the fact that multiple stories exist where someone wakes up or gets returned hundreds of years after certain events, that's strange. Could these stories be historical accounts of ancient people experiencing time dilation after traveling aboard alien spacecraft? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest other accounts, both ancient and modern, may reveal that extraterrestrials have the ability to manipulate time in even more extraordinary ways. Andover, England, 1935. Royal Air Force Wing Commander Sir Robert Victor Goddard is dispatched to inspect an old disused airfield near Edinburgh, Scotland. Sir Robert Victor Goddard was flying over an airfield to survey and see if the airfield could be used in the future. And while he's flying over, he notices there's cracks in the airfield and there's grass growing up, the cows are eating the grass and so on. He's flying home and he gets kind of lost or turned around a bit in a storm, so he decides to fly back to where he was to get a bearing. On the return journey, he encountered very strange yellow and brown clouds. Almost like he entered into some kind of otherworldly portal. And he came out of there and found himself in bright sunlight. And going over the same airfield, everything was renovated. And there were aircraft out there on the tarmac, but they were painted yellow. And there were people tending these aircraft dressed in blue. When Goddard landed and told his colleagues what he saw, they insisted it was not possible, since RAF planes were painted silver at that time, and mechanics' uniforms were tan-colored. However, just a few years later, the RAF changed the color of both their training planes and mechanics' uniforms, which Goddard witnessed when he flew over Dram Airfield again in 1939.
He's making another flight and realizes there are the planes. At Dram, they are painting them yellow. The people have on blue uniforms. It is exactly what he remembered seeing when he came out from beyond this yellow cloud 4 years before in 1935.
Some people have suggested that Victor Goddard's experience could be extraterrestrial in nature, and that just maybe he was thrust through time by a yellow and brown cloud that he encountered. There are many examples of these weird clouds being encountered in different parts of the world.
Ancient astronaut theorists propose that an alien civilization advanced enough to achieve interstellar travel may also possess the technology to create portals through time. And they suggest further evidence that such gateways have been established here on Earth can be found by examining the extraordinary events that have occurred in the Bermuda Triangle. The Bahamas, December 4th, 1970. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, pilot Bruce Gernon departs from Andros Island, bound for Palm Beach, Florida, just north of Miami. It's a route that he's flown many times before without incident. But this flight will be unlike any other.
Since I've been flying for 47 years now, I've had a lot of flights in that area. But this experience, I'll never forget. It all started 100 miles east of Miami when I found myself surrounded by this strange storm. Time started changing instantly. And I believe I actually got to see the fabric of time itself as I watched the tunnel rotate. When I reached the other end, the tunnel collapsed. And I reached the shoreline of Miami Beach. It only took 3 minutes and 20 seconds to fly 100 miles. I should have been able to fly only 10 miles, approximately, not 100 miles.
I think that what he must have experienced is perhaps some kind of a time shift, or he entered into an anomalous vortex that perhaps was some kind of a time portal. We don't know, but it's a very curious example of time travel.
Could it be that the route Bruce Gernon traveled led him into a portal through time? As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, this incredible possibility is even more intriguing because of the area where it happened. The Bermuda Triangle.
The Bermuda Triangle is really located off of Florida. The northern point of it is the island of Bermuda. It then goes down to essentially southern Florida and then out into the Bahamas. And this is an area that has historically had strange phenomena.
While Gernon was fortunate enough to have survived his harrowing experience, many ships and aircraft traveling through this region have disappeared without a trace. In one extraordinary case that occurred on December 5th, 1945, 5 Navy Avenger torpedo bombers, known as Flight 19, all went missing at the same time.
All 5 of their compasses were not working correctly, and they had 2 navigational instruments that they could use, and they were not working properly either.
The planes disappeared from radar, and their last communication consisted of nothing but eerie static. The Navy immediately sent a team to search for the missing bombers, but they never recovered any debris.
Is it possible that the Bermuda Triangle is subject to portals or vortices that create these mysteries? What we do know is that it is a place of intensive electromagnetic activity. And this is something that we can tell from the fact that so many aircraft and ships experience problems with their instrumentation.
Might the Bermuda Triangle be an electromagnetic hotspot where portals capable of manipulating time open and close? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and they believe that these portals may help explain some of the strange, otherworldly activity reported in the area.
Many UFO sightings and more modern UAP videos that have been released show unusual flight dynamics and capabilities of these, whatever they are. Well, maybe they're creating portals in our universe and in our time, in our space, that they can move in and out of at will. There's no reason to say they can't until we know what they are.
Is it possible that visitors from other worlds are utilizing portals in the Bermuda Triangle to travel through time and space? And if so, do such portals already exist naturally? Or are they being created with some type of extraterrestrial technology? Perhaps the answer can be found by examining the account of a UFO witness who claims to have received a message from the future. In Suffolk County, England, there is a remote forest in the village of Rendlesham that has become famous for being the site of one of the most extraordinary UFO encounters ever reported. And some of those who experienced it believe this incident also involved time travel. The event occurred on December 26, 1980. Airman John Burroughs was performing a routine security check at a U.S. Air Force base when he received orders to investigate a possible downed aircraft.
My supervisor called me on the radio and asked me to meet up with him so we could check the east gate. We're driving down the road leading to the east gate to check on it when all of a sudden he saw some strange lights in the forest. So decided to call it in and let him know something strange was going on. They decided to send one of the security units down, which was Sergeant Peniston. He got down there and he saw the same strange lights that we were seeing.
I could see all these multiple color lights and things like that, and the air felt different. I don't know how to really explain that, but it did feel like there was electricity on our skin and hair and stuff. But that progressively got worse the closer we got to the tree line, and it got more intense.
There seemed to be like an electricity charged atmosphere, and then also there were points where it seemed like everything was going in slow motion.
As the servicemen approached the strange lights, Sergeant Peniston reportedly saw a large craft just beyond the tree line.
The craft was triangular in shape, measuring about 6 to 7 feet high, black in color. I had come around to the far side of the craft, and that's when I noticed that there was, inscription on the side. It is about 3 feet long, maybe 6 inches high. So I'm expecting to find, I don't know, some kind of prototype